Hey everybody. It's great that we've got all the speakers joined for now, which is awesome. Happy Thursday to everybody. Hope you're all having a good week. Yeah, it's great to get on another roundtable. Obviously, we missed last week. We were just trying to let everyone kind of settle down from Token 2049 and a bunch of other things that were kind of ongoing. And yeah, it's great to get the rest of the guys that we have been chatting to on the call and to discuss everything with regards to the market, what they're planning in terms of their projects, and a bunch of other things we can obviously get into. I don't know if everyone on the call that is going to be speaking has requested to be a speaker, but if they have, then why don't you guys go and introduce yourselves and we can get started. Let me just chat to Nikos and see what's happening.
G'day, it's Dominic Crozer here, co-founder and chairman of Havelo. We're a deep-in aggregator, and love to give everyone a bit of an overview of what deep-in is as we move on into the spaces today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. Thanks. What about Jeff? Is Jeff in the house?
I am indeed. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. It's been great. Obviously having Jeff on a bunch of our roundtables. Always got a lot to add. So yeah, good to have you back. And who's in from the Delta Prime team? Just wanted to catch up with them.
Hey, Leaf. It's me, Piotr.
Hey, Piotr.
I'm a co-founder and CEO of Delta Prime. My first time on the roundtable, so really happy to be here. Hello,
Awesome.
everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Let's get into it. I think the last couple of weeks has been super interesting. A lot more of a different cycle than what we previously used to. And we're seeing a lot of people, especially on like crypto Twitter and those type of things, almost saying, "Oh, people are coming back from summer. We're going to have October," and then all of a sudden we have a bit of a dip in the market. Which is something that I think is super interesting to like kind of drill down to, because whatever people think is going to happen is not necessarily what's going to happen, and this is where projects that have some type of grit and some type of juice will definitely prevail in this type of market. I think Dom spoke briefly about Deepin, and I'd like to get his opinion on where Deepin is going and essentially what Deepin is and how it's going to change the environment of the crypto space and the crypto ecosystem, not just the crypto ecosystem but the wider ecosystem. So yeah, Dom, why don't you go ahead and get started? Like I said, it's the floor is yours. Let's keep it open as possible.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Leith, and g'day, everyone. Just maybe I'll kind of start from the start. DeepIn stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. The term was coined by Masari just over 12 months ago. Some of the deep-ins that people may have heard of in the past, I'll call them sort of V1 deep-ins, Filecoin, Helium, HiveMapper. My view is that deep-in is really going to be making crypto accessible to the mass market. And our view is there's tremendous opportunity, and I think the fact that Deepin is fairly new and not a lot of people have heard about it just, I guess, gives me a lot of confidence about the longer term opportunity in the space. And I guess our specific take on it, there's two kinds of Deepin. There's Deepins that require dedicated hardware, like the Helium and Hive Mappers of the world. And then there's DPINs that can work on your standard computer, your desktop and your laptop. And the whole premise is around you being able to share your computer resources and getting paid for them. And it's analogous to, you've got a house, you've got a room, you rent it on Airbnb. So this concept of having an asset that you own and sharing it out in exchange for getting paid, some kind of token or other, is really the whole premise around Deepin. And just to sort of bring Havelo in, given that the market is changing and many Deepins are still quite technically challenging, our whole philosophy around Havelo is about making it super simple, where whether you're a crypto nerd like myself or a Web 2.0 user, you'll be able to use Havelo to basically mine or share your computer resources and get paid, either in a native DePIN token, stablecoin, or fiat. And my view is, and this is kind of just taking a step back, my view is not just in DePIN, but crypto in general. Sometimes we as industry people can get so caught up, in the technology, and obviously I get super excited about the tech, but most people out there, the Web 2.0 people, they're not that interested in the tech. They just want to make sure, if I'm using Spotify, I just want to listen to music. If I'm using DePIN or Havelo, I just basically want to share my resources and get paid for it. So that's kind of like, I guess a bit of a start around, what DePIN is. Maybe, at this point, I'll sort of take some questions. Or if you'd like, I can certainly continue and do more of a deeper dive.
Yeah. I think what's very interesting from what you said is that, like you said, people kind of want to use crypto in a way that they use general apps and things that they use at the moment. They don't. People get bogged down with crypto because this seems like this. Well, it is a very technical industry at the moment, where a lot of people don't or are almost scared to get involved because they scared that they won't understand it. We kind of need to simplify it in a way that consumer facing or end users really have something of an easier UI UX, things that they used to in the normal traditional space, and just enjoy what they are aiming to do. I think that's something that is super important, especially for the next couple of cycles, is that our consumer facing apps are the ones that not only will make their lives more efficient but make their lives better. I think that's something that I think crypto is missing a little bit, especially at this point, and that's what projects are trying to build out now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as having been involved in crypto since 2013, launched a couple of companies, including one called Banksa, which is one of the leading fiat on and off ramps in the space. I saw firsthand how important it was to make crypto speak and the technical aspects as non-technical as possible, and by lowering those technical barriers and lowering the jargon that we all like to use in the industry, it actually lifts the participation of the billions of Web 2.0 users coming into the space. And maybe just kind of do a bit more of a deeper dive from a DePIN perspective. And I guess the area that we've particularly focused on, and many people don't realize that if you take your computer, there are multiple DePINs that can actually be sharing your resources. And just to give you some examples, DePINs like Sentinel and Mysterium are all about sharing your IP and your bandwidth to effectively create decentralized VPNs, virtual private networks. That's kind of one example. There's other companies like Akash, IO.net, that basically are able to share your GPU. Particularly if you're a gamer, you're going to have a good GPU, and GPU hashes these days are used to train AI models. So there's quite a lot of demand for GPU cycles at this particular point in time. There are others, for example, CDNs like Saturn and Meson, which is basically decentralized content distribution networks, and then file storage. Some of you may have heard of Filecoin or Storage or SIA, and this is all about effectively sharing part of your hard drive space and creating a global distributed storage network. So they're just, I guess, some of the examples of DePINs that can actually run on your computer. And in terms of chains, obviously there's a number of EVM chains that support many DPINs. Solana is seeing a lot of growth in terms of DPINs that are picking Solana, and now increasingly IOTX and Peak are also starting to bring on quite a number of DPINs as well. So we're still very, very early days into this space, and I think that the fact that it creates tangibility for a lot of people. I'm sharing my resources, I'm getting paid for it, just kind of creates that connection, that tangible connection for a lot of people out there.
For sure. And I think one of the important things about Deepin that a lot of people don't realize is, okay, maybe you can sum it up in a few short sentences, but why is Deepin important? Like obviously we've seen things like different hacks and different kind of attacks on various networks and things like that. And so where does Deepin fit in here, and why is it important that we protect this part of the ecosystem?
Well, if you go back to the internet in the mid 90s, it was actually all decentralized. So when you actually had a website, you were hosting it at your computer at home or at the office. And it's only really in the last 20 or so years that infrastructure has started to become much more centralized. And I think one of the there's obviously a lot of positives about centralized infrastructure, but there's also a lot of downsides as well, as we've seen with numerous hacks over the last couple of years. And in my view, I think decentralized infrastructure is significantly more what's the correct term, resistant to these kinds of hacks,
Yeah,
because
almost
they're
resilient, right? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I actually think we're going to see a real resurgence of infrastructure moving into a decentralized way. But just to give it, I guess, another example, helium. So when helium first started, that was one of the first DPINs, and they were involved in DPIN before it was called DPIN, and the original helium was about setting up nodes, IoT, Internet of Thing nodes, basically allowing computers to talk to other computers out there. And that took off, and there's I think over 1 million people who are running those nodes, and a physical device. But where I think helium is really changing the dynamics is in the helium mobile. And if you just look at mobile networks, carriers around the world invest billions of dollars in building infrastructure. And if you take 5G networks, there's a lot of money going into 5G networks these days. And the good thing about 5G is you get high speed. The bad thing about 5G is the signals don't travel very far, and they don't go around buildings very well like 2G and 3G did. And so what we're starting to see is a real surge of people buying these helium 5G hotspots, they're basically microcells, and putting it in their office or just outside their window, and effectively augmenting and adding to the existing 5G networks that are out there. Being able to provide network coverage in some of those black spots. So I think that over time we're going to see this hybrid approach of infrastructure being a combination of centralized and decentralized. I don't think centralized infrastructure is just going to go away, but right now, if you look at all the key infrastructure around the world, I'd say the vast majority is centralized. And I think over the next 20 years, there's going to be a bit more of an equilibrium where we'll start seeing decentralized infrastructure becoming increasingly more important, and in the case of mobile, creating those infill for all of those black spots out there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can talk to it quite personally because I just moved house, and the fastest network that was available for me was like 20 megs a second, which is absolutely terrible. So ended up getting a Starlink to kind of supplement that. But funny enough, the fastest internet around this area is 5G, you know. But the only issue is, like you say, going around buildings like this house that we built in is mostly steel and concrete, you know, and it's super difficult to get a signal from the bottom to the top. So these are the type of things that kind of decentralized physical infrastructure is going to try and fix, you know, and try and kind of supplement, you know. And I think what's really interesting here is another point that you made is that you don't think it's going to specifically move over to full decentralization, which is a very, very important point, because we're always going to have the aspect of centralization, and having the hybrid work in a way to kind of better the entire ecosystem is going to be something that I think is going to be very important. You know, let's hear a little bit from Jeff. I don't know if you want to chime in and add to this, and then maybe you can give us some lowdowns on what happened in Token 2049 and how everything was. Obviously, Dom was also at Token 2049, so you guys can give us your feedback on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Token 2049 was good. It was great. Probably a bit too big, I would say. You know, 700-800 different side events. You know, I registered pretty much for as many side events as possible, just because I was meeting so many different people. I wanted to be as accessible as possible. You know, 2 of the days, Tuesday and Wednesday, I probably went to maybe around 8 different events, 7-8 different events. So it was jumping from taxi to taxi, meeting to meeting. So not the most enjoyable experience when you're doing it that way, but overall very positive. A huge amount of interest across a whole host of different industries. Very vibrant space as well. It's very clear that, you know, everyone's expecting the market to pick up later this year. And it's just filled with builders and people building, you know, very cool, innovative things. But yeah, overall great experience. It always is at the token events. You know, they're the biggest ones, if not one of the top 2 biggest events globally. I know there's one in Dubai and Singapore. Denver's pretty big as well. But yeah.
What about yourself, Dom? Did you enjoy yourself?
I think the token conference was one of the best crypto conferences that I've attended, and I usually attend Consensus and a number of others around the world, and Singapore's always a great hub, and you know, a lot of people that come in from all around the world, and a lot from Asia, and I think in a number of ways Asia definitely leads the pack when it comes to certain verticals, including to a degree deep in. Um, I think, as mentioned, there was side event overload. There were more side events that you could even think about attending, and I just wish I could clone myself to attend more events. But obviously that technology is not available just yet. And but I think, you know, if I take a step back, you know, if I look at the general feel of the people there, it was like everyone was super bullish. And I would say even more bullish than the year before. The way that I categorize the year before, 2023, was, you know, inside the conference, it was, you know, hardcore bullishness. You go outside and it was, you know, hardcore bear market. You know, I think now there was a bit more of a equilibrium between the two. And but you know, what I definitely saw, there was a lot of builders and a lot of talk about deep in, and a lot of talk about, you know, RWA, real world assets, you know, the tokenization of various assets and new platforms that are being created, and some of the big institutional guys coming in and starting to make a splash in that space. So I think it was, you know, all in all, Singapore's always a great place, and especially for those that could hang out post token and attend the Formula One. But yeah, it was just super busy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we didn't end up attending this year, but we have been in previous years, and like you say, it's something that's kind of you kind of get taken aback by how many people are within the space. I think with the year that I went, people were very bullish on gaming in the Web3, and they haven't really got that right as yet. We've seen obviously a bunch of different things. That are coming out in this stage where gaming is kind of taking a little bit of a reconstruction. But like you say, I think deepin and real world assets and AI are kind of the three that are probably going to bring the market up this next cycle. So I'm looking forward to that. Peter. It'd be good to hear from you guys, and tell us what's going on at Delta Prime. I know that there's been a couple of interesting things that have happened with the project over the last few weeks. So it'd be good to catch up and see how everything's going on there.
Yeah, sure. So first, maybe like a short intro about what Delta Prime is. So we're essentially an on-chain crypto prime brokerage platform. So in some sense, you can compare us like to protocols like money markets, like Aave and others, where people can lend out their funds in decentralized pools and others can borrow them. The difference being that for the borrowers, we deploy smart contracts called prime accounts in which they can get their borrowed funds with leverage and invest in various DeFi opportunities, concentrated liquidity AMMs in perps, just like spot trading, staking, yield farming, and more. In this way, in one like simple cross-chain, cross-margin portfolio, which generally allows you to create any strategy that you would like to. And yes, so what you said, like the last couple of weeks were interesting. Like so to say, they were pretty demanding. So we were attacked by a hacker, and like our app on Arbitrum was affected. The issue is still under investigation. Everything that we can share at the moment is shared on our Discord. You can look up the announcements, and our community moderators are still like constantly being updated at what they can share. We are very, very open in our communication. This is, of course, a really unfortunate event, especially for us, because like who was with us for a longer time like knows like how we were concentrated our security. We were one of the first protocols to implement on-chain monitoring and other solutions. We work with cyber security investigators. But yeah, like this is the current situation. So of course we are doing our best to make the best come out of this, and the community response, the partner response is amazing. So yeah, this is just a hurdle on our road, and yeah, we are definitely moving forward. There will be a lot of better news coming in the next weeks and months.
Yeah, no, it's always tough when things happen that are definitely not expected. I think one thing I will say is that you guys have handled, especially the communication side of things, really, really well. I'll come back to you, Peter, but I know that Dom is in Australia at the moment, and it's nearly 12 o'clock for him, so he's probably getting ready to get ready for the next day. But Dom, if you could just give us a little bit of overview of Havelo, and I know that we're going to have you on another one of the calls in the next 2 weeks to obviously get more into detail with it. But why don't you just give us a bit of an overview of Havelo, and then anything you wanted to share. If anyone didn't know, AngelBlock is planning to do a raise with Havelo in the near future, so hence why we have them on. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Leith. And as mentioned, I will be doing a deep dive later on over the next couple of weeks. But just at a real high level, Velo allows consumers to easily share their computer resources and get paid for it. And the whole premise around the business and the business model is that we know that deepin's complicated. There are new deepins coming out all the time. It's hard to know what are the best deepins that will generate the best ROI for the computer and internet connection that I have, and that's partly what Hevelo does. It will basically solve that problem through a single, very easy to use interface with an ability over time to effectively self-optimize. Because there's new D-pins coming out all the time, we're going to be able to chop and change the D-pins in order to maximize the ROI or the yield for customers and for those that are, and I suspect most people on this call are kind of going to be in this sort of Web3 crypto space, but for the Web 2.0 users out there, the way that we've built the system is that someone can get involved in DeepIn, share their computer resources, get paid in fiat, and not even touch crypto. And coming back to my prior point, I think we as an industry have got still a lot of work to do. And if you ask me, what does success look like? Success means bringing on the next billion people, the next, the Web 2.0 billion people into crypto. They're using crypto and they don't even know that they're actually using it because it's happening behind the scenes, and customers are ultimately getting what they want. And just to kind of follow on where we're working in the next week or so, we go public beta, that you'll be able to effectively download and actually start earning and become part of that beta program. And then we've got our Hevelo token that we expect to launch in November. That will basically provide extra benefit and an upside and yield for our customers as part of them using the product and staking it. But we can do more of a deeper dive about DeepIn and Hevelo over the next couple of weeks. And thanks again for having me on Spaces.
Yeah, and thanks so much for sharing and spending the time with us. And we'll definitely chat soon. Yeah, thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
Um,
Thanks.
Yeah, Peter. So I know that we chatted a little bit about what's been happening over the last couple of weeks, but one of the positives, obviously, that we haven't got to is that you guys achieved 70 million TVL at this point. I think that was your all-time high, which is really impressive. I think obviously having people use the platform in a way that they are benefiting from is something that obviously you can't really know until it's actually tangible. And I think that's something that we should definitely speak about, and bringing Jeff into the conversation as well, because Jeff has obviously, and with Amplify, they have a very similar type of platform. Obviously, it's a little bit different from Delta Prime, but essentially, it's to the point where it's a lot more secure in terms of getting yield and everything like that. So I'd love to have a conversation around your guys' feels on DeFi at the moment. Are users coming back to DeFi? What do you see as the benefits for the specific next cycle, and why would people want to really go into DeFi apart from going into, say, I don't know, meme coins or things like that?
Yes, so yeah, generally, like, we are at the 70 and our eyes were on 100. Of course, it's gonna be a little bit delayed, but we promise that we are getting there as soon as possible. Yeah, so people choose Delta Prime because of two things. Like, there is one part which are savers, the people who are satisfied with a little bit lower but more stable and definitely less demanding yield, where you just like put your money in the savings account and it's just kept there and like it's being lent out to the borrowers. And there is a huge other group which are borrowers, and the borrowers are the ones who love to perform DeFi strategies. Whether these are like some delta neutral strategies or just leverage strategies, staking, arbitrage opportunities, and there is a lot of that. There are multiple opportunities. The current interest rate defines what's actually profitable or not profitable at the moment. So there is like a competition again, like between borrowers, competition between strategies. We have actually like 6 strategies on our landing page that we share with users. There are definitely way more that our users come up with every day. And yeah, so this is this second part, which is like flexibility. So we are one of the first solutions of this kind that allows people to to under collateralize, borrow a couple of tokens into one account and use it among multiple integrations. So usually when we talk about leverage DeFi, it's some like leverage vault or like some other simplified opportunity. Here, a user is able to define what is his portfolio, how he wants to manage it, how he wants to be exposed to the current market volatility, etc. And yeah, so that flexibility was like, and is our strength. We're definitely gonna even improve it in the future. And regarding DeFi itself, yeah, I think it's yield. Like, people are here for the yield that they can't get anywhere else. So there are a lot of people in the world that they don't have access to banking solutions. And we see, like, in the developing countries, in Africa, etc., there is a lot of interest in crypto because the crypto gives the people stability, the opportunity that they don't have from their governments. At the same time, a lot of people, even in developed countries, are restricted from a big part of financial opportunity. And a very good example of this is prime brokerage. With its name Prime, it defines that it's only for like the bigger institutions, bigger clients of investment banks, etc. And our solution, as every DeFi solution, allows everyone to participate. And I think this is what people are looking for. They just don't want the volatility of the meme coins, like some of them do, of course, but some of them want to have something that they can have more control of. They can define their strategy, and they can define, okay, what yield they are looking for. And these are not the people who want to have 500% profit in the month, but they are okay with having 50% over a year. And yeah, I think probably like this is similar kind of people that Amplify users that the Amplify is used by. So I'm happy to hear like what Amplify is to offer, and what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, of course. Jeff?
Yeah, sorry guys, it broke up a little bit towards the end there. What was the question again?
No, I was just saying that with regards to like DeFi and its kind of place in the market, you know, like, do you think that we are going to get to a point where it's going to be similar to like how DeFi summer was, or do you think there's always going to be like maybe newer trends, and DeFi is going to always have a special place or custom place within the market, you know? And this is what I was talking to Peter about with regards to people getting exposure to meme coins and things like that, where a lot of the liquidity is. But what he kind of led into, and this is where it's very interesting for Amplify, is that there is this place for people that want to kind of park profits, gain a kind of a justified yield, so that they can start just building on their compound interest, and then obviously redistribute when they want to.
Yeah. So I think DeFi for me, along with DePIN, for example, is one of the few real use cases that has a chance to take the world by storm and really transform the world. As I say, you know, the music industry has had a radical sort of technological revolution with the likes of Spotify. You know, DVDs and movies have had it with like Netflix and all the rest, but I still feel that the finance sector really has yet to achieve that. And we have had, you know, progress in the form of like Revolut and neobanks and things like that. But ultimately, I think DeFi in particular, especially when it comes to, you know, the sort of very innovative products that we're building, the sort of high yields, the sort of, you know, on-chain credit scores that doesn't require, you know, a whole host of past credit history and everything else to achieve, you know, to get people sort of be unbanked or to get people into the sort of finance system. I think that all of these products have a real place in the real world that can, you know, transform people's lives. I think we're in a situation, you know, especially over the last number of years, and especially in the last couple of years, where it's just become harder and harder and harder for people to get ahead, right? To get ahead of inflation, to get ahead of, you know, the mounting costs across the board, to save for a house, especially young people. And I think the traditional finance sector has done really nothing to combat this. And I think it's a combination of two things. Number one, I think they don't really care, right? It's such a monopoly from the big players that they can give you whatever they want, and ultimately you have to take that. And two, there's been no real competition, right? So I think proper DeFi solutions. I think we're still very much in the sort of Web 2.5, Web 3 space, but ultimately I can probably see this cycle, and especially the cycles beyond that, how this can become a lot more mainstream and really start, making people's money work for them. The point of what I say, what I'm building, we'd love to obviously challenge the status quo. But even still, if products like ourselves or Delta Prime or others come out there, if it just elicits change in the mainstream, then you've sort of done your job, right? And so I think DeFi is here to stay. I don't think it ever went away. I think the shiny object syndrome moves from like category to category. I think gaming is really difficult position at the moment. It's very hard to invest in a gaming game that has like $100 million FTV or something like that, and it's just a game. I can understand gaming studios and whatnot, but DeFi I still see as sort of generally and slowly growing, and I do think we will have another sort of DeFi summer-esque type of event. I was chatting to a recruiter only yesterday or the day before, and he sent over a report showing like the vacancies of various jobs in different categories. And DeFi actually has the most vacancies. 41% of the companies that are looking for hires are DeFi based companies, which just goes to show it's rapidly growing. It's probably the fastest growing sector in terms of bringing people on board and whatnot. It's just, it hasn't translated into the crypto market at the moment. And I think the issue we have there is obviously the meme coin cycle, which looks to be dying down a bit. The general thing that I've seen from people is everyone, like with every cycle, has just gotten wrecked, right, over and over again, especially in the last few months. And we're at the stage now where people really are sick of losing money in memes. Maybe they made a bit, maybe they didn't make anything, and now they're looking, as always, towards better investments. Right? We had that as well last cycle with the BNB run on the meme coins, and so this is just a cyclical thing. People will start looking to park their capital in genuine projects with a bit of a vesting period that have actual built products with real teams behind them, and that's basically the way that they'll go. So I'm very, very bullish overall, especially on DeFi. I just think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to catch on again, and when the narrative switches, we'll be there to take advantage of that, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. I think you spoke about a few things that are very interesting, and one of the things is that, like you say, like having come from the banking industry, it's really plays to the people with money. Like people have funds, or they have family offices or large investment value that essentially benefits the banks because of the bank's fees. The banks are going to go after where they can generate fees. They're not really caring about people with their savings accounts or anything like that. What that does, it just helps them negotiate that market. Like yeah, it's a very interesting kind of dynamic. And having something like DeFi, which does essentially change the system, it's going to take time for people to kind of bridge over. And I think that's where we have some of these, like you say, neobanks, like a Monzo, like a Starling, like Revolut. Funny thing about Starling, I don't know if anyone saw, but they have to pay a 30 million pound fine for lacking AML checks. So there's also problems within the fintech space. People don't necessarily know how to cut costs correctly in order to gain profits. So there's a whole bunch of things where in the traditional side people are having these genuine struggles. So something like DeFi is essentially having like a non-custodial or self-custody over all your kind of investment and financing activities is something that I think is essentially needed. And very interesting. Yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask is what do you guys think is the next kind of move for the market? Like we obviously see a lot of the institutions coming into the fold. We see a lot of differential opinions on different utility tokens and those type of things. Which direction do you see the market going in the next few months? And do you think we're in a similar cycle to something like a 2020, or do you think we're going to have a new cycle altogether? That's something that I think is super interesting to discuss.
I think, so I'll jump in first. So I think to your first question about is this a cycle same as 2020? If you had asked me this in March or April of this year, I would have said we're going to have like a left side kind of market. It's going to go really high, really fast, and then it will just sort of, crash along with the potential economy later this year. or even early next year. Now that we've seen like a real sort of drag sideways and down consolidation period over the last, like, what's it, 8 months now nearly. I think that we are literally coming to the end of 2020, start of 2021. I think the data from the US side looks pretty good. It looks like a soft landing could be achieved. We have this combined with the US elections, which I saw an interesting statistic that said, regardless of if it's Democrats or Republicans, the stock market still goes up. But I do think that a Trump win, for example, will be particularly good for the crypto market, just from a general bullish sense overall, regardless of how you feel about other policies. I think that would probably be the more beneficial from a risk on type of environment. But as to where the market goes next, it's hard to say, right? There is a lot of interest in AI. I think that's going to be another leading category this cycle. DePIN is pretty big. RWAs are pretty big, but they haven't had the limelight yet, right? We're still looking at these big infrastructure plays that have come about. There seems to be a lot of sort of bigger players coming into the foray. I think from a smaller capacity, we still see a huge amount of games, especially on launch pads and things like that. I think the gaming is, I don't buy it personally. I think there's too many games out there to really make an impact. And I think crypto is just an easy way to raise. The valuations for games have dropped dramatically, but I still think gaming might be a sort of mini cycle that might be coming up. But I do see, even with ourselves, there has been an increased interest with launchpads, for example, with ourselves, which is a DeFi AI play, right? More conversations are opening up. People are sort of switching back to, like I said, away from memes and maybe towards, real. I don't say real categories in a derogatory way, but it's in utility-based projects, right? And so, yeah, it's hard to say where we'll go next. It could go anywhere, but I definitely think it's shifting away from memes. That's for sure.
That's good. And I think something interesting there is you said gaming, for example, like what we've obviously, as AngelBlock, seen a lot of games come through for fundraising. And like you say, it is easier to raise money within crypto just because it's easy, it's a little bit more liquid and people are a little bit more risk on altogether. But a lot of the time games don't necessarily focus on the game first and more are focused on the token economy, and that's where the biggest problem is, because gaming as a whole is an attention economy. Like, you want people to play your game it was almost like to an addiction, that you want them to carry on playing and kind of try and achieve everything they can in the game and more, and that is what draws the attention. And then the token economy should always be secondary, and when you have these tokens being launched at high FTVs, you're like, well, where can this game go from here? It's not really a good upside, especially for crypto investors, that know gaming. Like 90% of crypto guys know gaming, so it's something that we know, and it's something that we can definitely kind of distribute, what's the word, kind of negotiate with ourselves whether or not it's going to be able to work. But what about yourself, Peter? Where do you see the market going? What are the trends that you're seeing within Delta Prime specifically as well, and where are people leaning toward?
Yeah, so first of all, even though I'm behind Delta Prime account, like, this is my personal opinion, and it's not a financial advice. Yeah, so generally, like, people look at crypto in terms of cycles, and these cycles are really visible, and they're a proof that it's still an early market that moves in cycles with a hype, etc. Which of course has its advantages and disadvantages, but I think what a lot of people miss is that every cycle is different, and every cycle has a different starting point, and that influences how the particular cycle looks like. So for example, right now, because of like the big participation of the of financial industry, of traders, etc. Crypto is more tied to what's happening in the global economy, which wasn't necessarily the fact in the early cycles of crypto, of Bitcoin. So I think this is really important to remember, because like everyone does the technical analysis, so they're like, oh, the bull market is coming into months, and then everything crashes because there is some really significant global event that influences like everything, stock markets, and in crypto as well. So I think this is really important to remember. Of course, like that's a totally different market that we are in than it was in 2023. Which was like definitely much harder for the founders and much harder for like everyone here. Good time to accumulate. Yeah, so like there are a couple of things that were happening in DeFi recently. Like one of the biggest was, of course, restaking. So we will see where the restaking goes. So it is definitely a concept that grabbed a lot of attention. Now we need more implementation, and we need to like see this real yield. And yeah, like as you know, like in Delta Prime, we're like hesitant on adding LSTs to our portfolio because in Delta Prime we focus more on a real yield. Although of course we see like a lot of interest, and like you know, in the end it's like the market is like the people, the community, the user that decide, okay, what's gonna be there and what's gonna survive and for how long. So honestly, of course, we are coming to the end of the year, so there is more bullish sentiment, but I think more interesting things will happen in 2025. um, I believe that things are generally happening slower than people expect, usually, and it's the same with AI and the same in DeFi, etc. So like the big revolutions, they really take time to find like real applications and really change the global economy. And it was the same with dot-com bubble, with electric cars, and I believe it's the same with DeFi, etc. So like, of course, we are early, and there is a lot we have to learn and a lot we have to improve, like to become the system behind like the real global financial transactions. Uh, but yeah, this is generally really exciting time to be in because like you know, every year we say we are early, but like every next year I realize how early we are, and I believe it's like, you know, next 5-10 years, and then we'll see like the world changing due to crypto. But this stuff, which is gonna change everything, is being built right now. That's what I believe as well. So yeah, I wasn't giving too much financial advice here, you know. I don't know whether markets will go up or down or like sideways, as one person said, but definitely like there is revival in DeFi, small revival, like not that much as I think Amplify or Delta Prime would like to see. But generally, yeah, it's much better than the year before. And yeah, we want to see like more protocols coming, more source of yield, more interesting applications, and yeah, that will allow generally make our systems, our applications, our protocols more interesting, more appealing to users, and help everyone grow.
For sure, for sure, and I like that the this kind of notion of that we're early, you know, because a lot of people a lot of people don't believe that they think crypto have already had its kind of time on the limelight, and it's really just going to be a fall away industry, you know. And like having been to these conferences and having seen like the kind of the adoption from the traditional side at this stage, the institutions coming into Bitcoin and Ethereum, I definitely think that with the types of products that can be built on chain, it's essentially the same as what can be built in the traditional space, but just in a more efficient way, you know. And what people don't realize is on the banking side, banks and other industries and institutions, they do take time to kind of move over to new technology. You know, a lot of the time they have significant investments, as Dom was saying earlier, with regards to kind of infrastructure, and they make billions and billions of dollars investments into different infrastructures that make their lives a little bit more easy. But moving to something like crypto that literally just changes the whole dynamic, it's going to take time, you know. And I've kind of got to a point where I think within the next 10 years we'll see a kind of more rapid transition over to crypto, not only because it's a superior technology, but because it's just way more efficient, you know. And the things with banks is that banks are making their money on fees, where the timing of the different trades and things is where they make a lot of their money, you know. So they have to get to a point where they understand where they can extract value from, and then they will move over. So this is exactly what you were talking about, Peter, is that it's going to take a lot of time for people to realize like how they can benefit their own revenue models and different things that are appeasing their shareholders in order to actually extract the right amount of value and to make it plausible, which I think will take time. So that's interesting. I want to pose a very interesting question to you guys, because we're talking about rate cuts and things that are happening, like and Jeff was talking about having a soft landing and everything like that. The last time aggressive rate cuts happened, we had the financial crisis in 2008. So I don't want to obviously put doom and gloom in everyone's ears or anything like that. Just want to have a very kind of educated conversation around the fact that the last time aggressive rate cuts happened, we experienced a financial crisis. I want to know from you guys, what is different in this kind of environment from 2008? Like, where has the world changed in terms of that dynamic? And is this the time where crypto decouples from the rest of the world, or are we going to be almost succumb to the traditional market until a time where the majority of institutions have moved over to our industry?
I don't think the crypto market will ever fully decouple from the traditional market, because markets are markets, right? If someone sends a missile towards Israel or Iran, like happened yesterday, all markets are going to react negatively. We could have a situation where Bitcoin perhaps behaves a bit more like gold because of the scarcity, the sort of the scarcity, the sort of the decentralized aspect of it, and whatever else, and how transportable it is and how usable it is, compared to gold, for sure. But I think if we have a crash like 2008, I do believe that the world economy in general is due a reset, right? Because you've just seen the unprecedented amounts of printing and money in the last few years, trillions upon trillions of dollars in the US. And I don't think that's manageable over time, right? Even if there's a soft landing, I think at some point we're just kicking the can down the road, right? And there has to be some sort of a hard reset, whether that's, a massive windfall tax on all companies, or a huge tax on the wealthy assets to try and claw back some of that to rebalance the portfolio. I don't know. It's impossible to say. But what I do know is, even with 2008, obviously we saw a massive crash in the market, historical records. And then if you look at the chart, it essentially went upwards for 10 years straight, right? So once you had that crash, it pretty much went onwards and upwards as if like nothing really happened. So, and the same happened obviously in 2020 with the COVID crash. We dipped and then we went all the way pretty much straight upwards as well. The markets were at all-time highs, and even last week, the markets are still printing all-time highs. So it's difficult to say what's going to happen. I think if anything happens from this perspective, like you say, it's probably a lagging indicator. If we are going to have a crash, which I still think is very possible, I think it will come maybe mid or the end of next year. I still think we will see a bull run. I still think we'll see all markets heating up. I think, both candidates in the US election will want to, kickstart the economy to some degree and continue trying to do what they can. But I suppose where it's different is the banks seem to be in a better position, right, than they were previously. I think there was a lot of sort of people were just sort of blindsided by what happened. I know in particular, especially in Ireland, where I'm from, and European banks as a whole, there's not the same level of reckless sort of lending and trying to chase maximum profits. Like, that's all disappeared. Like, they're very, very particular about how much they lend out, how that looks from like a balance sheet perspective. Are they over leveraged? Like, the European Central Bank is very heavy on all of that as well. Obviously there's some cases, I'm sure, where things go a little bit awry, but I think the world economy is in a bit of a better position from an understanding perspective than they were in 2008. I think that was just a house of cards waiting to topple. And even though we saw some big bank drops, with the fallout of USDC and a few others like, SVB and Signature Bank, ultimately, the economy didn't suffer the same way as it did in 2008, even though some of those bank collapses were bigger. So I don't know. It's very difficult to see, but it just seems like, there's a better handle on the situation than previously. But I do still think that we're heading into some sort of long-term recession, bear market, whatever it might be, whether that's, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I think at some point, the music's going to stop and we're going to have to pay.
What is it about yourself, Peter? And I think we can kind of lead into essentially why yield bearing investments that are kind of guaranteed are super important. You know, like when these type of instances in the market happen, when you hold stable yields, you already outperforming the market that are risk on. You know, so I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, so for something like in 2008, I think just like not the best state of global economy is not enough. There has to be like underlying issue for the like the markets to crash so hard, which actually, of course, there is a possibility that there is something that everyone overlooks, or like most of the people overlooks, and there is we have a dead body in the uh, in the closet. But yeah, generally, I think, of course, the geopolitical global situation is not stable. Like Chinese residential market is not doing good. China is trying, as a country, is trying to help. Rate cuts are coming, which is not a stable situation. And I think, yeah, we can definitely expect some volatile moves in the market. I'm talking about stock market because like volatile moves in crypto markets, you can expect them every day. But yeah, moving to what you asked about, like yield bearing opportunities. So yeah, of course, when the market goes up like crazy bullish, everyone is looking for the new token which can 20x and make him like buy a Lambo in like 2 weeks. But like in any other situation, whether it's a crab market or like a little bit bullish market or a bearish market, then the people are actually being reasonable and they think about how to grow their portfolio in a sustainable long-term term. And I think this is where protocols like Amplify, like Delta Prime, like others, actually see like how they can shine, because essentially what we want to achieve is just to like allow people to get the yield they can't get anywhere else, uh, especially outside of DeFi, because to get, for example, 15-20% yield, then like normally it's everywhere outside of DeFi. It's almost certainly a scam, and of course in DeFi it can be a scam as well, and there are the risks involved, and as we are learning here in, of course, in Delta Prime as well. But yeah, these are risks that can be handled, that can be improved, and like the whole space improving. There are like some certificates, risk frameworks, etc. They're all coming, and of course it's gonna take us some time to adapt, and we need to change, and we need to put our time, effort. But yeah, I strongly believe that like in a couple of years we can be in a much better space as an industry, and this is gonna be a really good field for the institutions to come in, to big players to come in, and then we can grow DeFi sustainably to a longer term, offer the yield to people, to everyone, and yeah, like in a decentralized, trustless way, the way like crypto people like it.
Got it, got it. Yeah, no, very interesting. Yeah, we've only got a few minutes left, guys. So, Jeff, I know you wanted to speak a little bit on the raise. I know that we you were in talks of doing a specific round. Do you want to get into that and talk about that for AngelBlock quickly?
Yeah, sure thing. I got to bounce in 2 minutes. Unfortunately, I have another AMA. Busy, but thanks so much for the opportunity. So yeah, obviously, I'm really excited to work with you guys. As I've stated before, I love the sort of AngelBlock model. I actually think it's becoming. I've seen a couple of other players that are sort of emulating what you guys do, and I think it's a testament to the sort of the model that you have versus the current Launchpad model, which I don't think works very well anymore. I think, definitely it's pivoting towards more like a community syndicate of investment, which is great. But yeah, I know what you guys are doing. Appreciate all the support you guys have given. As a result, we want to sort of offer your community a lower valuation. So, at the moment, the seed's at a 15 million valuation, and we want to sort of bring that down to a 10 million valuation for you guys and your community. We are doing that, for some a couple of VCs coming on board, but ultimately we want to extend that to yourselves as well. So it gives your community, a lower buy-in valuation, which means obviously the upside is more. But on top of that, it's just to appreciate the support that you guys have given so far, and hopefully this continued partnership can be bear fruitful things. So.
Awesome, thanks, Jeff. I know you got to run, but yeah, we're really looking forward to doing the Amplify raise coming soon, and we'll give more information on that as soon as we can. And Peter, do you want to have some closing thoughts, and then I'll close out the call.
Oh yes, of course. So first of all, I'd love to thank you guys for your support from AngelBlock, like everyone who is here, like your whole community, who are like you are our backers from a very very beginning, and it's great to like see you standing behind us even in harder times. Um, we understand that this is not an easy moment, not like easy period of time for everyone, for anyone here. But yeah, we want to reassure you that we are like strong behind the project. Like our partners are behind us. We are working on a great recovery plan, how to get from this moment, improve in many areas, and bring this project like to the next level. So yeah, I would love. I want to just thank you. You're amazing, and yeah, see you on the next AMA.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much, and thanks to the guests that we had. It's been an awesome roundtable. I think lots to discuss. So if anyone is going to be interested, share the recordings and give us some feedback. We always love to hear what the community is thinking, how we'd like to change it, or add additional things. So yeah, thanks so much to Dom. Thanks so much to Peter. Thanks so much to Jeff for joining. If anyone doesn't know anything about these projects, you can go to their websites, Havelo, Delta Prime, and Amplify. We have a bunch of their stuff within our chat and on our website. We should have everything out on the website in short succession. So looking forward to the next one, and we'll have one in about 2 weeks. And yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your week and a good weekend. And be sure to write in the chat and send us your suggestions. And awesome, guys. We'll chat to you soon.